All right, guys, sorry that I am not able to be at school today. I'm in another training. You know how I have a lot of those going on. So please open up to page 16 in your blue books. We are going to fill in some notes on slope. When I ask you to pause the video, please pause the video. And then I have included most of the answers in the video that you need for class, and then there's only a few group problems that you'll be checking on Google Classroom. So, page 16, what is slope? Slope is the steepness of a line and we say that it is the vertical change over the horizontal change. M is always the variable that we use when we are talking about slope. So we're going to, on this graph, we are going to plot a point at 0, 2, and then another point at, let's say, 5, 5. We are going to find the slope of this graph, or of these points, and we will do this again later with an actual line, but right now I'm just worried about understanding that vertical and horizontal change. So for slope, if we think about vertical, that's the y-axis, and we rise or fall along the y-axis. The horizontal change, that's your x-axis, and so we would run along the x-axis. So one thing that we use to help us with slope is we say that it is rise over run. So if we are looking at our graph, I need to rise from the left point to be able to get on the same playing field as the right point. So I'm going to rise up, and I went up 1, 2, 3 units. So my rise is 3. And then I'm going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. And so my run is 5. Therefore, my slope is m equals 3/5. Okay. Still on page 16, you should have already watched Slope Dude, and he talks about puff puff positive, nice negative, this is zero fun, and undefined. Thank you, Slope Dude, for that awesome video. What I would like for you to do is I'd like for you to label the Slope Dude graph. So I have positive as I increase, negative as I decrease, 0 when it's nice and flat, and then undefined when it is vertical. In this space, I would also just like for you to remember that these are only the types of slope. So for positive, we would have m equals a positive number. For negative, we'd have m equals a negative number. For 0, this is actually saying that your slope is 0. And then for undefined, this is again also saying that your slope is undefined. So Slope Dude only actually gives you a value if your slope is 0 or undefined, whereas if it was positive or negative, we would have to find it on the graph like we did before. All right, let's keep on trekking. If you need to pause or rewind, please feel free to do so. So finding the slope now from a graph, which is what we just did. So m, again, is going to be our rise over our run. And one thing I think that would be beneficial for you next to rise, I would write rise or fall. So in number 1, I give you 2 points, same with number 2. 3 and 4, I only give you lines, so you'll have to find perfect points. But in numbers 1 and 2, you're going to use that same method that we used on page 16, where we figure out how high do we go, and then how far over do we go to get to our next point. Remember, Slope Dude skis from left to right, so keep that in mind as you're finding the slope. Go ahead and pause the video. Do numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the answers will be here when you come back. All right, so here's the answers for 1 and 2. You should have gotten 3/7 and -4/3, and I kind of showed my little arrows or my little lines there to show you how I got that. And here are the answers for 3 and 4. You should have had -2/3, and number 4, you should have had 1. For these, you might have had different points on your graph, but you will still get the same slope as long as you are counting your number of steps correctly. All right, so we are now on page 18, I believe. And this is a mnemonic device that's going to help us to find the slope of horizontal and vertical lines. So HOI is going to stand for horizontal. The O looks like a 0, so it just stands for 0. And the Y stands for a y-intercept, which would look like y equals a number. This helps us because when our line is horizontal, our slope is 0. And the equation we would have to help us find our line is a y equals a number. And another way to think about it is it's going through the y-axis, so it's actually the graph of your y-intercept. Now VUX, I think you can kind of figure out what we're going to write, but we have vertical, undefined, and x-intercept, which is x equals a number. So again, when you have a vertical line, your slope is undefined, and you have an x-intercept that is graphed along that line, so it would look like x equals a number as your equation. Please go ahead and do numbers 5 and 6 on this page. Pause the video, and when you come back, you will have the answers. All right, so you should have gotten, for number 5, horizontal, so it's a slope of 0, and then number 6, vertical, so it's a slope of undefined. And our last little bit. On page 19, we need to find now the slope of 2 points. This part might be new to you because not all the teachers taught this last year because this is a Math 8 standard technically. So points 1 and points 2, these points are given to you, and I will always give you 2 points. The first point you see will be your x1, your y1, because it is point 1. The second point that I give you, the second ordered pair, is your x2, y2, because it is your point 2. So let's go ahead and write down our formula for this. Just to let you know, you will not be given this formula. You do have to know it. It is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That would equal our slope. So this is just another way of finding slope if we do not have a graph and only have 2 points. So let's see. Our points we're going to use for our example are going to be -3, 4 and 6, 7. I'm making these up. So one thing that might help us out is this is going to be my x1 and my y1, and then this one is going to be my x2 and my y2, just to help us when we're plugging it in. So let's go ahead and start plugging these numbers in. y2 is 7, minus, because that's in the formula, y1 is 4, and now x2 is 6, minus again because it's in the formula, and then x1 is a -3. 2 negatives make a, hopefully you said positive. So I now get 7 minus 4 is 3, 6 plus 3 is 9, and so my slope is m equals 1/3, keeping it as a fraction. Okay. Again, if you need to pause to catch up on this, you can. If you need to rewind, you can. But I just want to let you know what you're going to be doing. You are going to finish the page or the problems on page 19. check your answers on Google Classroom, and then you're going to go ahead and start your formula after checking your answers. Please, please, please check your answers before you start your formative. After your formative, you will, and the sub will have this up on the board for you, but you are going to update your formative chart, and then you're going to work on extra practice problems or any problems from today that you didn't get to until everyone in your group is done from that activity that we started a few classes ago. So I will leave a list for the sub to remind you of who your partners are. You will turn this in when you're done, and then once you finish your group activity, if there still is time, you will move on to number 5. There are 2 activities on the back white table near my desk, and there are directions and everything in the plastic sleeves there for you. So go ahead and do those group problems on page 19, check your answers, and then start your formative, and then the sub will have up that next slide for you. Have an awesome day, guys. Be good, and I will see you on Friday.